listening to Andreas's last comment on the Carbotique about the soft. Have you seen that? The Soft 99 report where he did all the comparison of the products. Really, really interesting, actually. Did you see it, George?
Yeah. I've seen the video you did a while ago as well on if the light versus dark. That was brilliant, watching that.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit old now, isn't it? A bit like me. But yeah, it's well worth watching.
3-4 years old,
Yeah.
Okay, that was a natural intro. Let's run the credits. So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to podcast number 5, the official return of Schwarzinger. Okay, we promised you we'd have a part 2. It's the same mighty 4. Okay, so we had lots and lots of questions from the previous podcast, and we promised to do part 2. And Andreas has very kindly dedicated, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. You know what we're like. We'll just keep going. And hopefully we'll get to dig deeper as to what makes Andreas tick. Now, quite a few questions that I've got from the Carbotique members, 7 or 8 people, really interested in the detailing side of things, and we're going to tap into a few questions on that shortly. But Andreas, I haven't primed you on any of these questions, but they want to get to know you as a human being, because you are a human being. You're not a detailing robot or anything, are you?
No, I have been accused of it last week. I think that I'm the detailing AI, but let's see.
Is that because of people complaining or moaning about your copy and paste? Do you believe?
Exactly.
Yeah, but if you write something good once, you've got to share it again, haven't you?
I personally never saw an issue with copy pasting because, I think it's better than telling someone to use the search function.
I guess going with that on that concept, I guess we're going to free flow it tonight. I think it's a great idea. When you put the responses that you do, they're obviously very topical, and the question gets asked multiple times. So it's a good way of sharing that knowledge that you've worked out over the number of years. And I don't want to sound like a guitar here, but no, if you want to copy and paste, let's be honest, most of us not copy and paste the same answer, but we do give the same answer without copying and pasting. It does take up a lot of your time.
Exactly. And the length of the answers I give, it would be a waste of time retyping them.
I think the amount of time you spend researching your question, it's not the case whereby people have just got one opportunity to listen to your response. And like you say, not that many people use the search function, and they certainly don't on the Carbotique. And whereas some groups get frustrated, use the search button, we just say, okay, we appreciate that people don't use it. Okay, we answer the question. And if it's a relevant way of answering the question is to copy and paste a response you've given, it's still giving that information. So I don't buy into the criticism of that. And if people actually read what you're saying, and we discussed this in the last podcast, every answer you give, you back up with detail and data. It's not just in my opinion, this wax is great. It's this wax is great because of X, Y, Z. Steve, you're going to say something?
Yeah. So one of the questions I've had, or some of the answers that I've read on multiple Facebook or social media sites, can you tell us why you wrote all those answers to those questions? Were you prompted to do it? Did you do it off your own back? Was it for a brand? I think I know the answer to some of these questions, but I'd be good for our listeners to understand why you've done so many answers. Where do you store them?
I stored them in my phone. In the Notepad app, and there I have them. It's exactly as Andy said. It would be a waste of time typing all those lengthy answers and then just let them disappear if I know this question is asked so many times over and over again. And from the point of view from a new group member who is don't know, it doesn't know there's a search function, he's too lazy to look for it, he just wants an answer, and he doesn't, or she doesn't care if it's a copy pasted answer, he just wants the answer, right? And from that new group member's perspective, I would say it's by far the best option out of use the search function, not getting an answer anyway, or just getting a really short product recommendation, which is, in my point of view, it's rather pointless. Just throwing random product recommendations at people.
Why did you originally do those, Andreas? And when you see a new question that you've not answered previously, is that what spurs you to go off and write another answer?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I just saw that there is an opportunity for me to share the knowledge and the experience mainly from testing I have, and then I started typing. And I like typing. It's not that someone forced me to do it. I like it, actually.
So originally, was that done, some of these questions, were they answered for a brand specifically?
No.
It just come off the back of people asking questions that you see repeated, so you decided to answer them. I never knew that. I believed, and I guess others thought, that you typed them for a brand. I thought you were affiliated to, is it Detail Freaks? And that's why
I do write blog articles for them, yes. But I started answering questions way before that, which was the reason I got contacted by Detail Freaks, by the owner who saw that I give lengthy answers, and then he asked me if I would be able to write blog posts for him.
Brilliant.
So it was
I never knew that. So that's good.
Yes. I think that resonates with you, Steve. I think when you got your passion back into detailing and you came on the Car Boutique, you were giving quite comprehensive answers, and that sort of spurred you onto the Geeky Details channel, everything, and you've gone from strength to strength. So although people like yourself, Steve, Andreas, get a bit of, I don't know, negative press if you want to do it like that. Okay, look at the followership you've got of people that actually want answers to questions, and maybe the naysayers are the people that haven't got the time, the effort, or the knowledge to actually match that level of detail. I'm guessing here, George.
Yeah, I was going to say, giving an answer like you do, Andreas, and also Steve as well. People don't need to go and search elsewhere for the answer. They've got it all there, and it's so informative. If they take the time to read it, they get what they need and probably more out of it, which is what it's about. It's about learning. And even if, the comment is there, they can go back to it, read it again, screenshot it, whatever. And it's a good way of being informative with what you're trying to get across.
Yeah.
My phone
to be fair, Andy started as well.
Oh, thank you. Continue, Andreas. Please don't let me interrupt you.
You started with those lengthy answers as well. I saw them.
Yes, I started getting criticism for the amount of answers that I started off originally with all the detail that I went into. And off the back of that spurred on, and I don't want this to make me about me, it was all of it. But yeah, now I feed my R&D that what I'm doing over months, over weeks, and give back that information that way. That's probably why I don't post as much now, because I'm doing it, but back to brands in behind the scenes.
Yeah. My phone. Sorry, go on, Andreas.
It's a lesson I had to learn the hard way. You will never be able to please anyone on the internet. There will always be people who moan. It doesn't matter if you give short answers, long answers. If you're brand affiliated, if you're independent, there will always be people who moan the way you provide the answers. And I guess the really frustrating thing is that we talk about something that doesn't cost anyone money. We all do it for free. We don't get paid to give those answers. And still people moan about the way you decide to provide the knowledge and those free answers. And that's the frustrating thing. But then, as I said, you cannot please anyone, and you're like, it's frustrating, but you have to build up walls at some point where you should think, that's someone you cannot please. And to be absolutely perfectly honest, I also started on Facebook at least to just block people when I get a really nasty, insulting response to one of my comments that I give, I just block them, because I say that's not the negativity I want to surround myself with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you think
definitely.
some people? Yeah. Do you think some people, when you write something, just say something nasty just to try and get a reaction out of you and try and pork you, so to speak?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it's wrong, isn't it? Really.
We had a similar situation, and we'll probably do a podcast in the future. And Steve and George, who both, we're all part of the management team. We have exactly the same thing. If we're trying to be constructive and we're answering a valid question to someone, and we just get negative response, if it happens 2 or 3 times, we just block them. Okay, the detailing community is far too much negativity, and we all know the people that pop up on all the social media groups, and there's no place for it. But at the moment, we're being far too easy on Andreas. He's sitting there far too comfy in his seat. So it's time to ramp things up, okay? So I've been asked to do this by quite a few people. We'll get back to detailing shortly, folks. But basically, people have been saying, why didn't you interview him? Okay, put Andreas under pressure. So at the moment, there's not much of a sheen of sweat on his forehead. So I'm just going to keep an eye on that. So we're just going to go through some questions, Andreas. You don't know about these, and we're just going to see what makes you tick. Okay,
Shoot.
So are you ready?
I think I am, but let's see.
Steve, if you want to enhance the questions, okay, let's go. So, how would your friends describe you, Andreas?
As a relatively calm and, I don't know the English term for it, the thought-through person. I'm always thinking first and then speaking or acting. Calm, friendly, and supportive, I think.
Sexy.
Well, that was strange.
It must be said. It must be said. He is a handsome man. Okay, he is a handsome man, and lots of people from Switzerland. Who's a tennis player? What's his name?
Roger Federer.
Was he Swiss?
Yes,
he is Swiss. Yeah.
Well, there you go. There must be.
But
He must have good
Swiss.
genes.
I'm Austrian. Don't forget it. I'm Austrian.
Oh yes,
that's why I look so good.
Watch the first podcast, you'll find out.
That's it. Right. Excuse me. Next question. What is your main strength and what is your main weakness? He's thinking.
I would say it's actually it's the same. It's my biggest strength and my biggest weakness that I don't stop. If I want to do something, if I want to achieve something, if I want to know something, then I do everything I can in order to get to that. But that's also my biggest weakness, because I don't know when to stop, so to speak.
Okay. If you're an animal, what would you be? If you were an animal, what would you be?
Ooh, that's a nice one. I think an eagle, a mountain eagle.
Ooh.
Why?
Freedom of flying, and for me personally, being in the mountains, it's the most relaxing, the most calming, and the most humbling experience.
You do a lot of, I know it's on your profile, you do a lot of skiing as well. Okay, we're moving on. You're not sweating enough. If you won the lottery, what would you do with the money?
First thing would be to buy a Ferrari Purosangue.
Ooh,
nice.
It's the last car the last new car we will ever see with a V12, a big V12. So that would be the first thing. Ooh, that's probably a shade of red, but not the typical Ferrari red. More a darker wine red.
Yeah.
Well, these are too easy. We're going to get more difficult now, Andreas. How would you explain a sunrise to a blind person? We've got him, Steve. We've got him, George.
Now I'm starting to sweat.
Tumbleweed.
Even I'm panicking and I don't have to answer.
You can come back to that one. A nice, easy one.
I would describe it to him with it's a rising, slowly but steadily increasing feel of warmth and heat.
He's an intelligent man, isn't he? He's an intelligent man. Right, we're going to get even more complicated now. If your toast falls butter side down on the floor, do you still eat it?
No.
Would you butter the other side?
Probably, yeah.
If you wrote your own biography, Andreas, what would the title be?
Oh, God.
Oh, God, that'll do. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you had a time machine, what would you do with it?
Ooh, I have prepared a similar question for you in a few minutes.
Okay.
I would go back in time and do everything I did exactly the same way again.
Would you really?
Wow.
That's a good place to be. That's
Yeah,
a good
it
place
is.
to
I
be.
would.
Excellent. What was the last gave someone?
The last what? Sorry?
The last gift, the last present you gave anyone?
Flowers to my girlfriend
Good
about a
answer.
week ago.
Had you been bad?
What did you do? He's not
I
denying
think
it, is he?
I think YouTube will delete the video if I tell you about that.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Right, then a couple more. When you're alone in the car driving along, what do you think about?
Not having a V12 and how hard my life is because of that.
Last one, because you're sweating. You are actually sweating. So people listening on Spotify, are actually Andreas's forehead has got a nice. He's never going to do a podcast with us again. Andreas, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I know you do a lot of academic work and all that kind of stuff, but jump forward 10 years. Where would you like to see, both in your sort of academic world and or your detailing? Or are you happy with the way you are? Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
In 10 years' time, it doesn't matter what I do, but I want to do something that I know I want to do for the rest of my life, because I'm not yet at this point.
Okay.
Good answer.
So have you got aspirations within the detailing industry to do stuff, or are you just going to develop and do what you're doing at the moment? Or have you don't have to tell me what it is, but I've got aspirations. Steve's got aspirations.
I have a few ideas.
Excellent. Okay. He's not going to tell us, is he?
No.
No. That's for another podcast. We need some stuff for part 3.
Absolutely. There is going to be a part 3 because we went through the list of questions we didn't ask you last time. Okay. So, right. I think I've been hard enough on you. Very, very, very.
Oh, I've got one.
Oh, go on then, George.
Okay, you're going to have to really think about this. Socks and sliders or socks and Crocs?
Oh, God.
Slider, definitely.
Sliders. Okay.
Danny's going to be happy with that, isn't
So
he?
I think anyone who wears Crocs has lost control of his life. That's,
See, I like
Mr.
him.
Dolden.
I like Crocs.
Mr. Dolden's always in them. There's a running joke we're going on with him and his bloody Crocs.
Oh dear. There's Paul Dolden with Crocs with sliders. Brilliant. We're doomed. Terrible. Right then, we're going to get back to detailing.
but as I said, I have prepared a question for you guys, which is rather similar than the one you asked me. Let's assume you could travel back in time, knowing what you now know today. Would you start detailing as a hobby all over again if you had the choice, or would you say, "Nah, I better not start with it"?
For Steve first.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
100%, I would definitely. For me, it's so therapeutic. You're always learning something with it. That's what I love about it. There's new products, new processes, new bits of tools, accessories to come out, and that side of it, with the R&D and everything else, especially, is something that I couldn't be without. No, 100%, I would definitely be doing it even further and even more. And if I could learn what I've learned now and take that back, yeah, definitely, I would be all in.
Good answer, Steve. George.
Yeah, definitely. Same again. All the points that Steve made. And also for everybody that I've met, brand owners, you guys, all the friends I've made out of it, definitely. The only thing that I'd probably do is just keep a closer eye on my bank balance.
Oh dear, there's been some money spent recently, hasn't there, on waxes? It's good though. It's good though. Your question, Andreas, is that specific to detailing or life in general?
No, it's specific to detailing.
I'm frustrated that I sort of got into doing this so late. I mean, I'm 49 now. I've been detailing, I call it detailing, doing cars right and wrong for 25 years. But I wish when I look at the young YouTubers coming on, I wish I was one of them. You know what I mean? I've still got years and years, and I've got plans and everything. But I wish I'd got into, not that social media was so prolific back then, but I wish I'd got formal training in my 20s and maybe gone that. I enjoy the job I'm doing, but for the last 25 years, it's been a hobby that hasn't waned. Some people take up golf and they get bored of it, but I get the same enjoyment now of looking at a dirty car and seeing the final results, stroke, people's reactions, as I did 25 years ago. That has not waned in any form. So if I had my time again, I'd probably go into professional detailing. I like the idea of running a shop, doing loads of reviews and all that kind of stuff, but you've got to be happy with what you've done in your life, and I've done well in my job. But I think in hindsight, if I had the ability to go back, knowing how I'm so interested and enthusiastic about the detailing industry, I'd probably want to be part of it, whatever it is, at an early stage. And pushing 40, we've only been doing this 2 or 3 years ago. I probably want to do a bit more in my early years. We're not all spring chickens like you, Andreas, but that's what I'd want to do. But I don't regret things in life. I'm a great believer in what is. It is. But certainly from detailing, I've got into it more heavily at an earlier age, so I can get to this point and have probably the knowledge that you've got, Andreas. Okay, but that takes time, and I think we've alluded to it on other podcasts that too many people are trying to take shortcuts in the industry and are lazy. Experience in detailing comes with time and practice, and you can't teach that on a course. You can teach basic skills and everything, but people have got to go away and feel it and all that kind of stuff. So that's my thoughts on it. George, were you going to say something, mate?
I was going to say one of the greatest things you've done is this group, TCB.
Well, it's team effort.
Absolutely.
It's team effort. It was. If we're looking at and giving each other toffee, the Car Boutique was a small fledgling group until initially Steve and Arthur came on board, and then things developed, and then with all the other moderators, it's really good.
That's the good thing about it, though, isn't it? As just George alluded to, and I don't know whether you, Andreas, can elaborate on it. What it's like, in Europe where you are, that the community. Yes, there's some negativity from a select, few, but predominantly, I've met some of my best friends, I could call them now, off the back of it. So, for me, how does that? Have you found the same where you are? Because I know that what people didn't, alluded to last time as well, that you can't wash your cars like you can do, here. Does that squash it a bit over there for you? Does it hamper that?
No, because I think people have found ways to work around that fact. But yeah, I can absolutely relate to that. I have met wonderful people with that whole thing. I have met some not so wonderful people, but that's all part of the game, I guess. Yeah.
You are right. We discuss this a lot. The more I don't like using the word popular, but the more well known you become in the detailing social media community, the bigger the target you are. And Andreas has already said it. You would get that with any industry. I think you'd be naive to think that you can put yourself out there and not get some kind of criticism. But I could go into any industry and you'd find the same thing. Sort of on top.
Exactly.
And we always said that when we're doing these podcasts, I know Steve and George are great believers, is we don't like to avoid contentious subjects. Okay. Now, one of the ones that we started to talk about last time was YouTube reviewers, and I'd be interested in what we all have to say on this. So YouTube reviewers have taken a bit of a, I wouldn't say a bashing at the moment, but there's a certain element of the community that are targeting YouTube reviewers as not creditable, and then they talk about the free stuff that sways, or influences or induces bias and all that kind of stuff. I know you do quite a lot of social media work, Andreas, but and I really want us all to be honest about this. What is our opinion, or what is your opinion on YouTubers? Do they bring value to the community? Is it relevant? Okay, is it important for potential customers of products to go and look at what YouTube review is? Is there pitfalls? Is there limitations? Is it good or bad? What's your opinion on it? I know we've talked offline, but I think it's fair that we address this because it is topical and certainly something me and Steve talk about all the time. What's your opinion on it? And then I'll go to George and Steve and see what their flavor is.
I mean, for a start, we really have to state that this is just an opinion piece, right? There's no right or wrong answers to this question. And I have to be careful because I have been vocal in the past about certain reviewers who I think are not always honest or straightforward about being sponsored or having had the products sent for free to them, or even, honestly, I don't even care if someone receives the products for free. I also not really care if a reviewer gets money for his work, because at the end of the day, it is work and time and material and money we invest in that whole thing. And I don't really care if he gets money. What I do care about is the truth. And if I see reviewers just standing there and repeating the claims from the manufacturers, even if they obviously don't make any sense at all, then that is something I'm very critical about. And I'm not gonna name names here because that's not. I think it's not the purpose of this podcast. But I think there are some who, I think there's some with more and some with less integrity. On a global scale, I think that reviewers definitely generate value for the consumers. They also generate value for the brands, even if the videos are not sponsored, even if the brands don't send you the product. There's no such thing as bad PR. Some intelligent people once said. So I think, yes, I think we are creating value. But on the other hand, I think what would be really nice is if there would be some sort of governing or controlling body which would have some sort of control and force on the whole reviewer scene, and could at least tap some of the reviewers on the finger sometimes when it's obvious that there is something going on there, or there's something wrong.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, the thing. I mean,
a clear enough answer.
No, absolutely, and it resonates with that. How I feel. I don't have an issue. I mean, it's one of them weird things. I don't want to go over too much old ground. I don't have an issue with people putting time and effort in and getting paid. That's I don't have an issue with that. And the free stuff that gets sent. Let's face it. Okay, let's strip it right back. I like getting free stuff. Everyone enjoys getting free stuff. If someone sends George something free, it's a nice feeling. Okay, and people that say they don't like getting free stuff, in my opinion, are liars. But like you said, it's whether the freeness influences the outcome. And we discussed this last time. It is down to the integrity of the reviewer. Okay, and you put the caveat when you get stuff free, and everyone else does, that it is in no way, shape, or form going to influence the decision. Okay, so I totally agree with what you're saying on that. And then I was reading, I can't remember where it was. I tried to find it earlier. There was a sort of study on how a company should promote their products, and it came up about social media reviewers. Is it an effective method of marketing, of brand exposure? And the majority, and I'll try and post a link to it if I can, was the fact that yes, it is. And like you said, exposure, negative or positive, is still exposure. It's bringing that brand to name to people, and then let's face it, purchasers are in the detailing industry are a shrewd bunch. Okay, they're intelligent people, and they will see through the BS, if you want to call it like that. And that's why I'm now starting to put links, and I've done it for yours. I put links to Paul Dolden's review, etc. This is my opinion. This is my user experience. I'm basically signposting. These are other people. Go and have a look at them. Okay, it's all about credibility and all that kind of stuff. George.
Yeah, so when it comes to YouTube, as you were saying, I think there's that much variation of YouTubers that there is going to be one or two that people don't like. But if you don't like them, don't watch them. Watch somebody else. And for reviewers, especially on our group, you kind of get an extra layer, because if somebody does a video on a certain wax, if they do a longevity test, usually, I'm not slating or anything, but if they do it on a panel, say, and they do like a torture test, they hit it with a decon shampoo, you get so much that you can see from it. But if you go on to TCB, there you go, plug, and you watch like a vlog that somebody's done a couple of weeks later, it's a real world test. So like for me, if I put a wax on my bonnet, my Golf goes up and down the motorway, gets, real world testing to a point. And that's the other layer. But I think it's good for people to study things on YouTube, get what they want out of it, and then get an extra layer as they go on to see what a reviewer does, because you get another. It's like an onion, isn't it? You get different layers with stuff, and it's. I couldn't think of something else.
I was waiting for the onion metaphor.
Shrek is a great film.
You're right. You're right. I mean, a couple of things. I'll come to you in a second, Steve. But I did a video, and Steve knows about this. I did a video on the Arva pressure washer, and Steve messaged me a bit late. Thank you very much. Thank you. Steve messaged me later and said, "Have you seen your video?" And I went, "Yeah, what?" He goes, "You said you used Built Hamber auto foam." I went, "Yeah." He said, "Well, the liquid in your bottle, was it pink? It was the wrong color." And I thought, OMG. And I went back and thought about what had happened. And because I was doing another review, I'd actually loaded the wrong snow foam into it. So he was quite right. But I didn't get precious about it. And we chatted about, should I put a disclaimer on it? The thing is, it was the same phone, on the test and everything. But I think that's brilliant. I think, the fact that Steve had gone through the video and picked that up, I have got no idea. So he must sit there thinking, waiting for Andy to make a mistake. But, yeah, you do. I'm coming to you in a minute. You can explain yourself. But other things, now I'm not name dropping, but I got a phone call last week from Johnny Shields, okay, and he was going through my videos, and he said, "Do you want some top tips on how you do your videos?" And he basically stripped the video apart, okay, but really constructive criticism. He didn't need to do that, and I'm starting to introduce it. So I'm not precious. If one person watches a video, I think that's great. But that's what I love about DT community. Surround yourself with positive people with the same mindset, and it's a great place to be. It really, really is. And Steve alluded to it. He's made some great friends. I've met Steve and me are mates now. Okay, would never have even known he existed beforehand. George and Andreas, we're building up that relationship, and we are coming to Switzerland as a team, so stand by. And it's really, really good. So we get the skis ready. I'm a snowboarder myself, but not skier. But Steve, what's your opinion on the whole the YouTube reviewers, being one yourself?
So yeah, obviously people will know by now that I don't actually do YouTube. Obviously I do other bits and pieces along the way, as you've always seen, but yeah, I'm being pestered to do it, and I think it might be a good idea. But yeah, Andy's going to work with me on that with camera and everything, but I've got a few ideas. But yeah, no, I watch hundreds of hours of YouTubers, and Specky and Paul, and there's others across the pond, which I really love their reviews. But am I watching it to base my reviews off of? No. I'm only watching it to see new products become available, new accessories become available, because I'm not going to say that their review, I don't believe it, but I want to prove that myself. And why? Because I live in a hard water area. My conditions and my variables and my mileage and my car are all different. So whatever review they do is their opinion and their variables. So I want to, and everybody's, they've heard them, been very vocal. Snow foam. Give me one that actually cleans. Somebody give me a snow foam actually cleans. I will happily review it, and I'll do it whichever way you want to do with it. But I can't find that when it cleans. Yes, they loosen. Yes, they soften. And then we're going to go off in another tangent. But citrus cleaners. Give me a citrus.
Here he goes. I was waiting for it. Yeah. But in my variables, I've not found a citrus yet, really, that's any good, unless it's at 1 to 4 at least. And I've not found any snow foams yet that don't even scratch the surface, unless
not even first, not even Sienna Gloss first.
Forced is okay, but I've still found traffic film left. Also, we've got iDetail Pro, which is another good one, but they all do leave something behind. Is that because I expect too much from it? But I'm with you. I've got evidence which I've gathered so far where I had iDetail Pro, Zero, Forced X, and a couple of others that I've thrown into the mix, and they all done a fantastic job. So I guess, I hope, I want more through the winter months. I want something to take it off. Now, I know what I'm asking is verging on damaging the paint. Do you know what I mean? Do you know where I'm going with that?
So I think that's, exactly. You are looking for something that probably doesn't exist because you're looking for something that we all look for, which is the perfect product, which does everything, which does cleaning extremely well, stripping every single particle of dirt off the car without damaging something. And I just think those are the limits of chemistry, and it's not possible.
Yeah, you're right. But I say, when you're just going back to your answer just quickly, so yes, YouTube reviewers, I love watching them. And for people to get in front of the camera, absolutely brilliant. You know, it's hats off to them. Brilliant and exceptionally, excellent what they do. But yeah, I just take that as a pinch of salt, their review. I like to test it for myself because I'm getting variant and different results. Of course I would, because I live in a different part of the country. So that's my views on it. Back to you, Andy.
And I think it's
George.
It's a fantastic point you just made, Steve. What?
Go on, Andreas.
It's a fantastic point you made. It takes... You need to be brave to step in front of the camera, knowing how much hate, negativity, and criticism you possibly can get. And that's why, I mean, in general, I personally think that as a whole, if we take every reviewer into a group and say, as a whole, I haven't seen that much nonsense being talked or presented to us compared to other stuff we see on social media with popular. I think the main issue is with people who are not into detailing, who then review detailing products because they are paid to do so. I think those are videos which I saw which are much worse than anything I have seen from, let's call them serious car care reviewers. And as a whole, I think we are doing well. On the other hand, I think what some people forget is that as a reviewer, you have a good chunk of responsibility towards the viewers. You just have, because yes, you can always go back and say, well, everyone needs to do his own sanity check and you have to decide if you trust me or not. But let's be honest, you have a responsibility. People will watch it, people will trust you, and people will spend money based on what you present and what you say. So this responsibility is not something anyone should take lightly. And that's why I am so critical if I see someone presenting products in a way that you cannot just repeat what the manufacturers say. You need to test that. And the best example, which I am always very critical about, is if some manufacturers or reviewers say you can apply that quick detailer spray sealant on top of another LSP and it doesn't affect the hydrophobics of it. That's chemically and physically complete nonsense. And I have never seen a reviewer stating that, actually showing and testing it. Because if they would do, and it's rather easy to do, you would clearly see that it is nonsense. It is not possible. And that's something I am very critical about. So as a whole, as a group, I think we're doing fine. But sometimes I think the responsibility part is not taken as serious as it should.
I'll come to you in a second, George, but I just want to develop that. I think you're quite right, Andreas. There is a moral responsibility, especially as you become more popular. I'm not going to use the word social influencer because I absolutely cannot stand that. It's an arrogant frame of mind, in my opinion. But the more you need to be cognizant that the more popular you get, or the more people that will view you and trust you, that moral obligation to be 100% honest is so paramount, because it's going to result in people spending money, having a bad user experience, and
your credibility is out the window.
100%. So I totally endorse what you just said, Andreas. 100%. George, were you going to say something? Sorry to keep you waiting.
No, it's all right. It is a very fine line with the honesty, because if you get a product and you slate it, people are going to they're going to watch and think, oh, he's an idiot, he doesn't know what he's on about. But if you get a product, I've used a wax that claims 12 months longevity, and I put it on and it didn't. I got about 3 out of it. And I was honest with my review about it, because I also take into account that people work hard for the money. If they're spending money thinking you get 12 months out of a wax and it does 3-4 months, they're going to think, hang on. And they'll start thinking they've done something wrong when it's actually the product. But if you tell them, they might not buy it and buy something else. So you've got to be, it is a very, very fine line to get your points across, but be careful with how people take it, really, how they take your advice.
On the back of that, George.
But that's exactly what I mean with responsibility. Yeah, it's exactly what I mean. It's also responsibility to take time before you do the video and think about what you're going to say and in what way you're going to say it, because it is an extremely fine line, but you have to invest the necessary time in order to find the right words.
I'd just like to add, to mitigate
without slating a company and without lying.
Yeah, just to go and mitigate your answer to that, George. That's why it's very clear to add your variables on your day. What was the temperature? What was the humidity? What time of day did you do it? Because if you've done it at 3 o'clock, the temperature's dropping quickly. There's too many variables, so it's always key, I think, to make sure you advertise what you've done and the variables for you on your day, and your process. That way, it'll help people make up their mind to make that line that you were talking about maybe a little broader, if that helps.
Because even the car that you're putting it on has a massive effect. If you're putting a wax on a car that's got single stage paint, it's going to act totally different to a newer car. But you can still have a car that's from you can still have the car that's from the same manufacturing group, and it's different. I've used a quick detailer before on my Golf, and I've also used it on Shannon's Q2, and it totally different, but they're from the same group of cars. Granted, they're different colours, so you have got factors like that. And when people see that, they kind of think, right, I can't think this paint's hard, this paint's soft, because that's a bit of a stigma that people get into. They think, oh, Volkswagen paint, always hard, but it isn't the case. So, like you said, the variables are always there, so it's a bit of pinch of salt as well.
I talked to a few people, and like I said, I'm getting some valid input on the videos at the moment from various people. But I look back, and I'll be open and honest, I look back at my first videos, putting aside the horrific video and audio quality, but I cringe now at some of the things I was saying. I was saying things like, would I recommend you go and buy this? Yes, that's not my place to do. And I do look back, and it's very, very difficult when you're doing a video, and Andreas alluded to it just shortly. You've got to be quite not scripted, but I suppose you are scripted with your dialogue, because some of the things I was saying was, I think there might have been, this is the best on it. I never say that anymore. I think you should go and buy it. And I look back thinking, you've got to learn, and develop, but that's not my place to be. And some of the stuff, the way I'm going to be changing my videos is because I'm an instructor. I've done 10 years of instructing. I look at my videos and it's almost like, and this was advice recently given to me, that I'm almost doing a lesson behind the video, and I look at it and I think, actually, it's right. So I'm just going to try and chill out a bit on video now and let my natural character come through. It's almost like I was trying to put a professional, almost like doing a TV program, a professional gloss on it. I don't need to do that. Okay, this is just me, products, my user experience, get to know the real Andy, not some staged, rehearsed video. And that's the way I'm going to go. So, and it'd be interesting to get feedback from everyone, but just be natural, show what you're doing, Don't tell people they've got to go and buy it because that's their decision, and just give people choice another video to look at. George.
Yeah, good example of somebody being as natural as they can be is Rab. Rab reviews. You watch a video as his, and you know what he's saying is exactly what he's thinking. He doesn't beat around the bush or anything, and that's what people want, the honesty. But I think when people are watching things on YouTube, they'll know where the person that's presenting it is going a slight. I mean, like Larry from Ammo NYC, he never does anything wrong, and it's all his products and they're good. And I watched the most recent one, which was the Ford RS2000, I think it was. And at the end, when he was doing his walk round shots, they were very quick. And you think, that's crap camera trickery, really, isn't it? And it kind of gets you thinking,
The people, I'll be open and honest, and I've said this before. I got into reviewing, detailing reviewing, watching Paul Dolden's channel, Natural. Okay, and we've met him. Steve's good mates with him as well. We met them at Waxstock. The person you see in person is the person you see on camera, and Specky as well. And I watch their videos not to to learn about the products. I enjoy watching them. Okay, because I've met them. You know, it's an extension of your friendship watching them on camera, and I love doing them. And that's the way I think I personally, self-critiquing myself, need to go. Stuff trying to be an instructor, it's in my DNA and it's hard to get out of. But just chill out, have a good time.
It's like the bloke next door, isn't it? If you're watching somebody that could live next door to you, it's even better.
Yeah, exactly.
But then on the other hand, there are many people who want really scientific testing. Like you did, like John from the Forensic Detailing channel does. So there will always, that's what I said, you will not be able to please anybody. So I'm sure that if you go now in a different direction with your channel, Andy, there will people who think, well, I like the other one better. Exactly. At some point you have to accept that what you do attracts a certain audience, and that's your audience then. You cannot please
that was
anyone.
Actually, I'm not plugging Johnny Shields' advice to me. He said you need to make up your mind who you're going to be. Okay, and he says it's a lot easier to do videos where you come across naturally because people can see through a false projection, and all that kind of stuff. So interesting to see where my journey over the next few videos comes from. And I know Steve always watches my videos and takes notes. Steve, I'll try not to make any basic mistakes next time. All right. I was really worried. I wasn't
trying to find
the last one. I was really worried.
Green.
I know.
And red. It was it was like a siren in front of me.
I know.
You just said you're using such and such.
I look back in. OMG, he's right. But you haven't messaged me after the latest Ava Stofoam cannon review, so it's all good. It's all good. No cock
all good. No critique this so far.
But I have a question for you guys, which is I have a question for you guys, which is exactly on that topic. Do you do your videos and your testing in some way or another different because you already know some of the criticism that you potentially could get? Did you ever see yourself changing stuff, including stuff, doing stuff different because of the potential criticism that you got in the past, for example?
Great question. Steve, while I get my answer ready. Steve, go.
Right. So go on, let's go through that again. Have I ever changed the outcome of my testing review because I've seen another review based? Is that what you're saying?
Not the outcome of your testing, but have you changed something in the process of your testing or the testing itself because of potential criticism that you could get and you have seen on your channel or other channels?
No, so I've never changed anything. I'm going to turn it on its side then. I have changed my review process because I've seen stuff reviewed and I didn't believe that to be right or true. So yes, I have maybe, instead of testing one product 1 or 2 ways, I might have tested it 5 or 6 ways. Now they might not be advertised or stipulated or part of the instructions, but I've done it that way because I have found different results. So I've elaborated, let's call it, to see if it persuaded the answer to fall in line with what others are what they suggested. If somebody suggests I need to do X, Y, and Z, I will do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D to see if I can allude to a different answer.
I see.
I believe in that answer. I'm like you, and I think that's a great question. I don't like to leave any stone unturned. I like to dive deeper, not swim with them, dive deeper past that to see if there's a different outcome. Because again, as I said, probably my favorite words tonight, I'm going to sound like I'm repeating myself. My variables and my opinion are going to be different to others. But if I can be as honest and upfront with my variables and how I've done it, at what time, at what humidity, temperature, water hardness, you name it, then I hope that will give somebody a better outcome with an honest look into it. And I hope that helps. Great question, Andreas, by the way.
It was a good question. George?
Yeah, if I'm reviewing a product and I've got something on my shelf, if I see something on TCB, YouTube, anything, I'll purposely try and avoid it, because I think it can cloud your judgment slightly. If you see something, it can, even if you think it's not going to do, it still sits at the back of your head and you think, So that's my approach with it. And once I get that product, get it on my car, it's just me, the car, and what happens, I'll review back. I try not to let anybody else's views come in. But if, say, somebody else has had a bad experience with it, say it's an LSP, if it's still on my car and they say I hit it with X shampoo, I'll try it on mine and see what happens, because then it can sometimes be a user error. So if the person who's applied something has done, not put enough on, or they've got a few patches that they've missed, it might magnify the issue that they have if I try it on mine. But if I have an issue, I'll say, I have the same issue as you, and go from there. So I try and do it of my own view, if you will. But like Steve said, what a question that is. Brilliant.
It is. I'm really annoying, Andreas, that you came up with that question and we didn't. So we are going. Just folks, so you know, we've chatted about this offline. We're actually going to do a podcast where Andreas hosts the podcast. Okay, so he will be driving the question. We'll get what we'll probably do is we'll get a load of people in the podcast. We'll have some people in the waiting room. We'll switch people in and out. I think that'll be a really, really good concept because they're fresh questions. I like that. My personal answer is yes. I've made the mistake before of if I get sent a product whereby I'll be honest, I used to not test them very well before I did a video, going back months and months and years, and I used to trawl the internet, look at what everyone else was doing, and that would steer, oh well, everyone else has done that, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the same thing. Now, because I'm conscious of that, I sometimes I don't even go onto YouTube, because I'm fully aware that, and George was saying it will, irrespective if it's not in your conscious thinking brain, your subconscious will be recalling what you've seen and heard, and it is almost impossible for it not to distort your approach to a review. So I tend not to now look at other YouTube reviewers until I've done my video as well. What I also do is exactly what Steve does, is I test, and sometimes for months and months and months. There's a ceramic I'm looking at the moment, and I put it on test panel, and it's 9 months in. I'm getting a bit of, I'm getting a bit of grief, okay, that we haven't done the video. But I said, right, so I want to do the full thing on this one, including longevity, which is sometimes what you don't get on ceramic coat, but it's getting to that point. So, I try and go into things with a blank canvas, whereby now I get my own data by weeks, months of testing, rather than taking a shortcut and looking what everyone else has done. But that was me, naive and immature in terms of my YouTube journey. And I've realized that you've got to do it yourself. And due to the subjectivity of reviews, don't be steered by what other people say. Do it yourself. Yeah. And collectively, when people go and look at 3, 4, 5 videos, they'll get a balanced view, and they'll make their own mind up. So a killer question, absolutely brilliant, love that. What's your can I twist the answer and say to you, Andreas, if you've got a new wax or something, see what happens here. If you ask a good question, it gets back on yourself. Do you look at what other people have done, or do you think blank canvas? No, I'm going to test this with my conditions. How do you do it?
Usually I'll make a plan on how I want to test it. Then I actually do watch other reviews or read about them online, but not in terms of getting their opinion in terms of I don't want to forget something. Maybe they brought up an aspect like, can you use a spray sealant also on plastics? That's something we sometimes forget. Can you use them on glass? And maybe someone else already tested that, and then I can include that in my reviews. And I mean, my question was more like, have we changed something in terms of criticism we got in the past or potential criticism? And we absolutely have. We published a video, I think this week or last week, where we compared wash mitts on a test panel, which we had painted with solid black paint, where you see everything. And we wanted to see if they scratch paint and if the more expensive wash mitts are better than the cheaper ones. And we thought for hours how we can do that testing and show it on video in order to let criticism not even start. And we came up with things like we put dirty water in measuring caps with exactly 100 milliliters. So every wash mitt has exactly the same amount of dirt in them. So yes, we absolutely did change or adapt our testing to criticism. Yeah, definitely. But I don't think it's for the worse.
I must admit, when I'm doing, you've reframed the question, and I'm probably going to answer it how you intended it to. I am conscious of criticism, and so much so that when I'm doing a video, not so much now, but I used to think, OMG, I'm snow foaming from the top to the bottom. That's going to get the detailing police on me because you're meant to go from bottom to top. When oh no, I've rinsed from the bottom to the top. Oh no, you're not going to see where you've gone and all that kind of stuff. And doing my shampoo, I've done a circular motion. I'm in trouble now because we need to go in line with the airflow over the car and everything. So in the early days when I was a bit more sensitive to criticism, absolutely. And the amount of retakes I did, I remember doing one video where there was one bucket. Okay, I'd only used one bucket, major drama. And I saw it in the video and I deleted it and went back the next day and did it again because the 2 and 3 bucket police would be on my back. So absolutely. But I don't bother with that now. But it does make me laugh when I do a video and someone said, you snow foam from the top. And now I don't necessarily agree with it. I think it makes an absolute insignificant amount of difference. I do go from the bottom to the top because that's what the industry norm seems to be. But really, does it make that much difference? Really? It's on the bottom for about 5 seconds more than the top. I mean, you're leaving it for 5 minutes.
Exactly.
But yeah, absolutely,
that's that's the first thing I always tell the participants of my detailing courses. Look, detailing is a spectrum, and everything within that spectrum is completely fine as long as you are happy with the results. There are very, very few cases in which there's a clear right or wrong in detailing. Very few cases.
Yeah,
we want to enjoy it and get from A to B, don't we? But from A to B to C. How you get there, and if you're happy with your results, what's the problem? That's the whole part of the journey, isn't it? Is how you get there. If you enjoy it,
100%. You're there to enjoy it. It doesn't matter, does it? Doesn't matter if you wash the windscreen before the boot or something. It's your car. You can do what you want. And if anything, you know your car better than somebody else does because you wash it. They don't.
I mean, even something like everyone says, wash the dirtiest part first. You do the wheels before the bodywork. I'm not being funny, but on quite a few occasions, I know it. On quite a few occasions, not on camera, I will wash the car, then do the wheels at the end. And if a bit of overspray goes on the bodywork, I'll just rinse it off. It takes me about 10 seconds. Exactly. But I do that. Exactly. The argument is robust in terms of, yes, do the dirty stuff first. But I do chuckle to myself thinking, look at the amount of...
And I think that's the thing. Exactly. I mean, I get it in terms of that we as reviewers and people who are a bit more in public, we are role models, right? And we should try to promote the, let's call it the correct practice, or the right or the sensible way of doing things. Yeah, I get that. But then on the other hand, as all of you said, it needs to be fun for every one of us.
Yeah.
Correct.
Absolutely. And like we said on the last video,
normally have one bucket. I use one bucket, and I have multiple mitts. I have a mitt for the wheels. I have a chenille for the sides. I have another.
Theoretically, that's
the way I do it.
That's the safest way of doing it. Theoretically, yeah.
That's the way I do it. And even though I've got 4 buckets, that's my wash process. But for the top half, I only use Dodo Juice fuzzy mitts. Why? Because I'm always testing. I have to keep the same wash mitt or the same type of wash mitt, and they all have to be worn in. They all have to be broken in. So if I'm testing shampoos, the user experience or the feedback that I'm getting would be different. So again, it would be a null and void. So I know I'm weird. I'm not going to say I'm weird like that, but that's how far I go into it. That I keep the same amount of mitts of the same brand for that purpose.
Yeah. See, I've got 4 buckets.
It's the correct way of testing. Absolutely.
Yeah. See, I have 4 buckets, but I use 2 for the wheels. 1 for the wheels, 2 for the car, and 1 to stand on so I can reach the roof. That's my process.
Oh dear!
You need a step ladder.
I do, yeah. Not a step ladder. I need one of them extendable ones.
what I'm going to do is I've got and I don't know whether I'm going to be able to do it, but I've got about 5 hours of bloopers on my videos.
Yes,
and it is horrific. Some of the swearing. You're dropping. The worst one is dropping a wash mitt. I did one, and this is really bad. Dropped a wash mitt, and then didn't even realize I'd done it. But I just picked it up and put it back in the bucket, and I stopped, and I thought, "Oh no, the video's running." So, but yeah, at the end of the day,
I thought you were going to say you stood on it then as you walked past.
No,
you stood on it, and then. Yeah.
But some of the things I've got off camera are brilliant. But I don't know how we do it. So. After the 9 o'clock and all that kind of, that might be a private video to send to friends and family. Private links, I think, on that one. Right, we're doing well. George, have you got a couple of questions for?
Yeah, so I'll go.
Not that this was scripted.
I know. Yeah, let's have a look. So I'm going to touch on about applicators because I think people really get hung up on what sort of applicator is the correct one to use, whether it be a finger one, a UFO one, microfiber, foam. Do you have a preference to it, or does it depend on what you're using?
It depends on what I'm using. For waxes, I still like the foam applicators, but if I have the choice, I use ones with a closed cell foam because it doesn't soak up as much of the wax as the open cell does. For ceramic coatings, it's microfiber applicators, but there are ones which have a rubber layer in them so that the coating doesn't soak into the sponge then. So, but you can give me any applicator and I'm able to apply a product. So it's not that important.
Yeah. I think people get hung up on it though sometimes, don't they, and worry that they're not using the right thing to put the product on. Like some of them, I'd love to use a wax that you can do by hand. I think that would be.
I've got Zymol wax that you're actually encouraged to, warm it up.
Swiss wax and Zymol,
yeah.
I have tried it. It makes zero difference to the performance of the wax.
I'm gonna say I've never ever understood that process of massaging.
That's why I haven't done it.
Fingers,
and the
warming it up with your body sweat.
Yeah, that's right, Steve.
With the Swiss waxes, it does make some sense because they are rather dry and brittle when you apply them with an applicator. So there can be chunks of the wax in the applicator. When you rub it into your hands, it becomes very oily, very liquidy. That being said, if you rub the applicator a few more circles around the paint, you have exactly the same effect. So that's the only reason I get why Swiss Wax recommends it. But then,
it's something
performance wise, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah. No. So the second question I had was around cost. Do you think that there is a price point where it's too cheap to be good or too expensive to warrant what it does?
Yes, in both ways. Yeah, definitely.
So would you
I
have
think
a price in?
we have more. It depends on the product category.
Yeah, that's true. So
Depends on what we talk about.
That's fair.
But generally, yes. If you have like really, really unbelievably cheap products, they usually don't work as well. And on the other side, I have to say, if you have something that is more than 100% more expensive than the best performing product in any category that you usually won't get any benefit from using the more expensive one.
You get a lot of that. Sorry to jump in, George. You get this debate when you're discussing things like waxes. The 100, 200 pound waxes, and I know there's a lot more expensive. And I've seen so many arguments on social media about why you're spending £100 when, I don't know, Built Hamber, double speed wax, you can get a big jar for 18 quid, and everyone goes on about the hydrophobicity and all that kind of stuff. It is a difficult one, and I've discussed this with a lot of people. It's not, and whether this is right or wrong, it's not just the performance of the wax, it's the whole buying experiences, the packaging, it's being part of their club and all that kind of stuff. So there's more to it than just product performance. But if you strip it right back, you can get waxes for £20. You can get waxes for, I don't know, £200. Is the expensive one, 10 times better than the cheaper one? Well, no, it's not. There's other things to discuss, but it's a good question. What's your spin on this, Steve?
You named the perfect example: Built Hamber double speed wax and all the soft 99 waxes. I mean, look at how little you pay for how much wax you get, and those guys still are making money out of it. So it's really hard to justify from a performance standpoint spending more than 20 quid for a wax.
Yeah. And some people get a buzz out of spending £200 on a wax, don't they? They enjoy that experience. They enjoy paying almost for exclusivity. I'm part of a small club that can afford it, or are privy to being able to buy a wax, that higher end wax. So there's a certain degree, I'm not going to say elitism, but a certain degree of, and fair play to them, if they get an inner good feeling about making that purchase, who are we to criticize at the end of the day? But once again, we're not even looking at performance, are we? We're looking at all the other stuff. Steve, were you going to say something? Are you
Well, I was going to, because I guess I know where you're alluding to with this. We've got a certain person, HP Source, that you're buying into the experience. I would call him, a wax maker, but I'd also call him an artist. He's stepping up as another level. But I've got some waxes which are £20, which I have a fantastic relationship and user experience with. I've got some waxes which are over £100, but they're over £100. That's the only answer I can give you. It's over £100. Did it make it any better? Did it last 100 years? Did it last 100 days? No. You're sort of buying into it. Did it come in a billet? No. So, there is part of it. And I know the materials and they fluctuate and everything else. But for the user experience, and I certainly do, and I love waxes. I couldn't tell you the difference between them when I go from 50 to 100 to 150 to 200. If I was blind tested, I don't think I could tell you. And that's me being honest. So, again, it all comes down to, for me, the ease of application, the scent. The scent's big for me when you're spending that much time applying it, going around the vehicle, which is going to take you a half an hour to an hour, depending on the size of the vehicle, of course. You need to be able to enjoy that product. It needs to be easy on. And for me, I like to be able to get round, leaving it on. Once I've done a complete revolution, I like to come back and then take it off. That's me. I get what's a great wax? Geon, the Geon wax. You can leave it for half an hour. £30, I think I paid for it. It's a fantastic wax. The gloss, the water behavior, and it's in a deodorant stick. Right or wrong, I actually liked the application process. Why? Because it was different. Probably the best £30 you'll spend, on a wax. That's my personal opinion.
But then, to be fair, they weren't the first ones who did that. Dodo Juice was first with that deo stick idea.
Were they? I've never seen
they had it.
Which was that?
5 to 10 years, long way back. Like 10 years ago, they were the first ones. Yeah.
And they've stolen.
They had a supernatural stick, some sort of it. Yeah.
I'll have to hunt for that now. Google
I have no idea if they stole it from them, but no.
Do you own it? Do you have it, Andreas?
I don't have the Dodo Juice one. No.
OMG. There's a wax that Andreas doesn't have.
I had
that's
a couple of questions.
Christmas present sorted from us.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, and to say, and let's just keep this an open, free-flowing chat. Now we've gone over the because, as I say, before anybody logged on, just so you know, we chat like this openly beforehand. So, I wanted to know if you had to select 3 brands, 3 favorite brands of yours. Would you have that? Would that come to mind straight away?
What a question.
What does Andreas rate as the 3 favorite brands for you? I'm not asking you the best, for you.
HB Sauce, ODK, and Sonax.
Oh, good.
That's a great shout. I'm not going to open that up to the room, Andreas, if you don't mind. I want to open that up to everybody else.
That is a whopper. So I'm going to, if I may, Steve, reframe your question, because you've asked me to give 3. I suppose these will be the 3 that we all know. Not one. I'm going to quantify my question. See, I'm already doing what Andreas was alluding to. I'm already anticipating what people are going to say. Yeah, this is really bad.
Make it 5. Make it 5 if that's easier.
No, three's enough. So the 3 that I'm going to choose are, if I had to select 3 detailing product ranges and or brands that I could only ever use for the rest of my life. And this is generic. Okay, I would choose.
Get on with it.
I'm thinking.
Come on, it's bedtime.
Right. Okay. Built Hamber.
Fanboy. Yep.
Yeah. I've got 2 in second place. I've got Alien Magic and Detail Bug for different reasons, but I love their brands. I've used a lot of their stuff, so they're joint. And it would have to be HB Source Custom Wax Creations for the waxes, hands down. So 3 different brands, okay, for 3 different reasons. But I think with those 3, I would be happy for the rest of my detailing days, because I've tested. They're probably the ones I've mainly focused on, and I know they really, really good. But Sonax is a great shout. I'm going to just plugging. We're going to be doing a review on Sonax products soon. The only one I've used is their brilliant, the Net Shield and their detailing spray that's been around for years. It's a brilliant detailing spray.
Brilliant so detailing? Yeah.
You mean BSD?
Yeah. That's it, BSD, yeah. So we're going to come to them as well.
Wasn't that, Steve, wasn't that a question you wanted to ask me in this podcast about the polymer net shield?
Yes.
About the what? The polymer net
shield? Wasn't that in the first podcast?
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Something... I'm only interrupting because George has had more time than any of us to choose his 3. So George, go.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Built Hamber, Autobrite, Bouncers.
Ooh.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, varying reasons there. I think Built Amber does what it says on the tin. Autobrite, user experience, scent, and Bouncers. Yep. I really like the brand. The waxes are amazing, and I used the Slick Mick the other day, the Creed edition, and even though it isn't, do you know what? I think it's one of my favorite shampoos. It might not be the best in the world, but for me, the user experience I got out of that was amazing. And my neighbour thought I had aftershave on, so it's win-win.
Go on, Steve. You've had more time than anyone.
You know what the funny thing is?
Go on.
Go on. Before you jump in, Andreas, Steve, what are your best 3?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to make up.
It's a horrible question, and it does not mean these are our 3 basics, but we've been forced to give an answer, and the brilliant brands out there. But yeah,
if I was asked, and I've been asked this question before, on a quick fire answer was Infinity Wax Garage Therapy Labo Cosmetica.
Labo Cosmetica. Forgot about them.
Very
Locked in.
No, I need to change my answer. You're right. Steve's right.
That's been asked of me before. And why?
Yeah.
Infinity Wax, because I've got a close relationship with them. They're always innovating. I think I've said that before.
Yep.
Garage Therapy, because I don't believe they do a bad product for me. There's a couple of them that I'm not keen on. There's a couple I would take out, but they do the job. And Labo Cosmetica, from all those years ago with that 3 pH system and how it's evolved up until now, that's a process that I still use to this day. And I have a lot of great results with. That's it. Results.
No,
I get results.
no. I bowed down to that. Labo
You know what
Cosmetica
the
is my
funny
fourth
thing is?
choice.
Go on.
Go on, Andreas.
My answer would completely change if you would ask me if there's one brand that you could use for the rest of your life, and I would say Dodo Juice.
Oh wow!
Oh,
All right, then let's
Because
reframe the
if
question.
it's just one brand,
Yeah.
the products have to work and they have to be fun at the same time. And I don't think there's another brand which combines those two things as well as Dodo does.
well, what about
Absolutely.
Stiana? I know I'm splitting hairs there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Almost.
this is
Same
doing my head in.
wheelhouse. Same wheelhouse.
This is
Right.
messing.
It is George, one brand
Oh,
for the rest of your life. I'm gonna put my hands up, not because they are the best in any way, shape, or form, and their wax is limited, and I'm gonna lose all my creativity and my involvement with the brand owners and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna say Built Amber.
yeah, but Built Amber though, like,
Don't criticize my answer. I'm not asking for an evaluation. I just want to know your best one.
it is.
I'm gonna jump in before him, and I'm gonna
God.
say one brand only to do everything. There's only Auto Bright.
Do you know what? I'll second that.
Is that due to
Because
their
they
expansive product
literally
range?
do everything. I could get a
Everything,
polish, or
yeah.
I could get a polish. Everything I wanted to detail a car for scent, for glass. If you wanted one, they do everything under one roof.
Yeah, and also they have
Good call.
varying scents as well, which caters for everybody. I know a good example is the pumpkin spice Halloween quick detailer. I had to stop my brother from drinking that because of this.
Yeah, now I'm gonna be really nasty with you because I prepared a similar question, but let's turn it around.
Now
Let's
we've
assume-
Andreas, get the brief. We're interviewing him. Oh, this is brilliant. Go on, Andreas. Go on. This is
Let's
fun.
assume that for some strange reason, the government assigns you with the task to name detailing brands, which then would be forced to close down for good. Which three brands would you name based on the assumption that no one would miss them and that they don't actually bring anything valuable to the market?
EZ.
Oh, mad cow.
Okay.
All right, straight in.
Oh, sorry, I should have hesitated. Easy.
Mad cow.
Oh,
The guy was very rude and abrupt and everything else when you said or mentioned anything about the brand. That's not something that's going to survive very long.
that's a
Oh,
good show.
you're waiting for my answer now, aren't you?
Yeah, and it is almost Wednesday.
I've got a few in my head. So, and I had to choose one.
You can name a
and,
few.
I agree with the EZ thing, but I'm going to quantify that because I've never actually used any of their products. Now, the reason why I would agree with George on that one is and my opinion is purely based on social media, is the considerable amount of negativity about the brand and all that kind of stuff. So, do I honestly think the brand would be missed? Probably not. Mad Cow, yeah, get it. Once again, haven't used their products, so it's just based on my perception, what I've seen, heard, felt, and all that kind of stuff.
If you've never used EZ, they've got a sale on.
I ignore it though because they've got a sale on. I was waiting for that sale. Maybe that's my opportunity now.
They've got a sister company. It's DFS. They have a sale on as well.
Yeah.
This will be a weird one. This is the fairest way I can answer it. Now, bearing in mind, I'm not trying to be. I said my brand that I would always use is Built Amber.
Yeah.
Conversely, if Built Amber didn't exist, I'd still be able to get equally as good products, if you see what I mean. And that's based purely on the fact that they've got a limited product range. I don't think it wouldn't. The industry wouldn't miss it. However, from the products they do have, okay, that would be my natural choice. And I suppose that's linking into what Steve said when he said Auto Bright, okay, because of the expansive range. The negative side of, in my opinion, Built Amber is they deliberately keep their product range small, and there's some fundamental gaps in their product lineup. Okay, so I would probably, in a perverse kind of way, answer it Built Amber, but that is not me being nasty. That is me saying
Judas.
Politician.
Yeah. Yeah. There are some other brands in my head.
Judas Frazier.
However, we will discuss them when I hit end recording. Yeah. Anyway. What a question.
Who would you cause, Andreas?
Now, I like the easy and the mad cow shout-out. On the other hand, I think those brands maybe will end themselves. So I'll actually name a brand which probably won't end itself and needs to be ended, and that's Turtle Wax.
Oh.
Come out swinging, Andreas.
Yeah.
That's
the reason you invited me, for exactly that type of sentence.
They've got better, but I can see your reasoning behind that. That is a fair shout.
Yeah, go on, back it up. Let's hear why, please.
Doesn't like tortoises.
They show, in my personal opinion, they show a lack of integrity in how they market product and how they behave. Because we probably all know, because Jay made it very public when they tried to bully their inside job interior detailer product into the UK market, when Jay had his own product with the same name that does exactly the same for years. And that kind of behavior is exactly why I would say, let's end that brand.
And it's negativity as well, isn't it? Trying to take down the small guy is just wrong.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say something like because their products are mediocre across the range. That's my perception of Turtle Wax. I have used them and they've been good. They haven't been good. They haven't been bad. So
the new ones are decent, I would say. The newer ones are decent, but it's mainly for how they market, how they behave. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely some products of their range which I believe are badged at £8 to £9 mark, and then I believe by putting the ceramic bottle or hybrid on the front with maybe a tweak, maybe even not, and then command £20 per bottle.
Brands like
on my testing, it's become prevalent that an £8 to £9 sealant, which I actually bought for £6, acted the same as one that I paid £18 for, with the same results.
I can back that up. Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading a report the other day, and I thought this name was going to come up. What's the chemical guys? There was a thing on their product range, and I can't remember what the figure was. And it's okay that I discuss what I've read and felt and thought. That's what these podcasts are all about. And going right back to the start, Andreas, we said how honest we're going to be, and this is for people talking. Was the suggestion is? I mean, they've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of products, and I've got about 12 of them, and I am sure that 3 of them, and I will share it another podcast, are exactly the same product in different packaging, targeted at doing different things.
Wasn't that in Specky and Paul's podcast lately?
Not sure.
Maybe that's where you picked it up.
Yeah. No, it might have been that, but I went and thought, okay. So that's that I don't like that. I don't like that in the industry. No. And I think, to his credit, Cav from Stiana Gloss is a great advocate of that. Why buy 3 products when this product does X, Y, Z? Love that.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think that is really, really healthy.
Yeah.
Go on, Andre.
Yeah. Then on the other hand, we have to say that the chemical guys, their products at least are always really easy to use, and they are pleasant to use every single time.
Yeah. Well, on the back of less is more. If you had to kill a product or 2 that isn't needed in the detailing scene, what would it be, or what would they be?
Tire cleaners.
Oh, I like tire cleaners, but then again, you can use therapy decom to do it.
We should have started the podcast like this.
I actually think there's a reason why they exist, and they work better than 90% of APCs on the market.
Okay. Go on, Andre.
I actually think there's a reason why they exist, and they work better than 90% of APCs on the market. Okay.
Okay. You need to explain that to me. I need educated because
I think the original source was Michael from Infinity Wax, who said that if you look at particle sizes, then APCs are rather big because they don't have to penetrate as much, whereas tire cleaners need to penetrate into the rubber, and therefore the particle sizes need to be smaller. That's why they generally work better.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I found. There are APCs which work extremely well on tires, but generally tire cleaners work better.
Yeah, ADBL rubber and tire there's nothing I've ever tried anything like it.
Better than Rebound.
On another level. It smashes it out of the park. ADBL rubber and tire Rebound doesn't even come close. Honestly, it's I've never known nothing like it.
Yeah, the Gian one and the Dodo Juice one for me worked best. Okay. Especially if you do material safety tests with them. That's where pretty much all the others fall apart.
I'll definitely try that. I must admit, I've done tests with APC, and I think it was something like Surfix HD or something like that. And I suppose on my test. So
that's one which works extremely well.
Yeah. And I suppose because I used that one, I can remember doing a test where I cauterized the tire and I used a couple of dedicated tire cleaners and a couple of APCs. And I personally couldn't differentiate between them. So I suppose that's tarnished my perception of them. But certainly what you said, Andreas, is certainly worth looking into if there's actual a sort of scientific reason whereby a dedicated wheel cleaner, for the reasons you gave, further. Maybe that's something I'm certainly going to explore and maybe delve a bit deeper into some side-by-side comparisons. And like I say, it's not just your opinion. You've actually backed it up with something that I will go and investigate myself. George, Reband, is that wheel cleaner or a tire cleaner or both?
It's just a dedicated tire cleaner.
Tire cleaner. Try that one as well then.
So back to your question.
Really good.
Back to your question. 2 products. You mean in general, like product categories?
No, just 2. Product categories. Yeah. For the audio listeners, we're still here.
Yes. Strip washes. Strip wash shampoos. Because not a single one I ever tested, except for McGuire's Wash Plus, worked.
I was about to say that one.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. No, they don't.
Strip wash shampoos, especially all the American ones, which are slightly alkaline, if not even pH neutral, which they don't just work. So that's one category, and then the other one.
The one you mentioned, Andreas, is because it's an abrasive, though, isn't it? The actual shampoo is almost a form of abrasion. That's why it's so effective. And I totally agree. It's the only one that I've found works as well.
That will be a controversial one. Wheel shampoos.
I like wheel shampoos.
I'm not a fan of them either.
Yep, I love them.
Wheel shampoos. No. I have found 2 which are different than regular car shampoos, but all the other ones, no.
Yeah. Go on, Steve. Sorry, George. Steve, you're passionate about that, yeah?
I love wheel shampoos. Have done ever since we bought our T6 3-4 years ago. I went and bought one. I'd only had it about a month. I went and bought a lovely set of Caliber Altus gloss black alloys, and noticeably see wash marring and everything else has started to arrive on them within 4 or 5 weeks. So I was looking for every excuse or every reason I could find to eliminate, reduce that wash marring. When I stumbled across them, and I think it was the Garage Therapy wheel shampoo, which had come across, which set me off, and away I went. Now I have probably 10 or 12 of them, but I can see where Andreas is coming from that. Now there's a couple more good ones out there, but I've got some that are just a waste of time. They don't even hold the
Garage Therapy one is one of the 2 I mentioned,
The Infinity Wax one's good, and I use
Infinity Wax is good.
I use just wheels from Auto
the second one,
and I was blown
Auto
away.
Bright's brilliant. The slickness and everything else is exceptional.
I was blown away with that, how good it was, and how long it held the suds for as well.
Yeah, it's a slippery bugger, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
You're all wrong. You're all wrong. You can just use normal shampoo. Anyway, Steve. Steve, what's your one? I'm only joking. You're only joking. What your answer to the question? These are dynamite questions. We should have just done the podcast on these, I tell you.
My answer to what question?
What product or what product would you get rid of, i.e. a shampoo or wax or something like that? 2.
Citrus.
Oh yeah.
We know that, yeah.
Snow foam.
Oh
yeah.
You all know I've been very vocal about it. If I wanted something to soften and loosen, then I might as well just put a shampoo over it as normal. There's no different for me. Don't get me wrong. In the summer, if I want to add dwell time to my citrus, because that's probably the only time it will be used, but then I probably wouldn't because it's only light dust. Oh, I don't know. I'm opening myself up here and fighting myself with the same question, but I've answered it several times. I would use an APC instead of a citrus because it's cheaper and you use less of it. So cost effective wise. And if you use it at the right dilutions rate, they are safe. I've proven countless times that it's wax safe or LSP safe. And as for snow foams, if I can find one that actually cleaned, then I might keep it. But for me, I might as well just use a shampoo, snow foam that on, leave that to dwell and soften because that's all they're doing, and then rinse it off. And I know it might be controversial, but where I live, hard water areas, whether that's having a massive negative effect on its cleaning power, I'm not sure. But they look nice, they look good, and it's part of adding to a safer wash so that it might pick up because we go to the beach a lot. That's where why I still use it because I believe or I hope it's picking up sand particles from where we've been down the coast and taking those away because I've noticed those do more damage than any other wash process I've ever used. Go to the Cornwall or any beach one weekend, come back. If you don't pre-wash, then you're in for trouble because the sand, people forget to do the door jams, boot shuts, under the bonnet, that sand will blow out with a pressure washer and will go over your panel. So pre-wash.
Good answer, Steve. Good answer, Steve. Are you guys? Should we just keep talking? It's 1 hour 30. Should we just keep talking?
Don't avoid the question.
Oh, damn! All right.
I've got a numb tush. I'll give you that.
There's Andreas is going to have to be a part 3. Okay, we'll just keep going with these because So my 2 products would be firstly, and these are controversial, but it's my opinion. But like Andreas said, he's there's. I'll say something, and if there's an alternate opinion, I'll listen to it. First one is interior detailers. Now, my personal opinion on that is I did a test on a car that was left dormant for a month. I used an interior cleaner on one side of the dash, an interior detailer on the other. And in terms of the anti-static, I saw no difference. My other opinion on interior detailers is everyone's pursuing the OEM finish, the non-shiny. And if you are putting a detailer in, you're psychologically thinking, I want something to be left behind. And that, in my opinion, is not OEM. You're altering the final finish. That's my, albeit distorted, view of interior detailers. And the other one is leather conditioners. I don't use them.
Oh, good shouts.
On newer leather, I don't use them. But that's my personal opinion. And I don't know why I've come to that conclusion, but my mindset is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andreas, modern leathers have almost got their version of clear coat. I don't buy into the leather conditioner thing, and I've stopped using them. But I'm prepared to be educated as to why we should be using them sometimes.
It's a long and complicated answer, but let's talk about leather in part 3.
Good show.
Okay.
Good show.
Absolutely.
So
let me write that down.
Yeah. My 2, glass cleaner, and the second one, a waterless wash.
Good shout.
I can see that.
I can die.
Rinseless, waterless.
Forget it.
Yeah. Why glass, George? Why don't you think there should be dedicated glass cleaner? Because I agree with you. In my opinion, I'm interested to see if it's the same reason as me and the rest of the guys.
So exterior glass, Koch Chemie FSE. Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm upset.
Andreas is going to come back with that one. Yeah.
No, in a hard water area.
FSE has its own form of protection, and I think it's silicones in there, which is why I personally wouldn't use it on the windscreen. Could end up smearing and stuff like that. So
I must admit, Judge, I've used FSC, especially, it's usually to get rid of the water spots and all that kind of slightly acidic, blah blah. And I've gone over the windows and they've done a good job. But I haven't thought about. I suppose that a lot of people ask me about FSC and say, does it leave? Is it a good detailing spray? Does it leave anything behind? So what Andreas was saying, I'm going to investigate that. I personally use, and I might be totally off ball here, I don't bother with glass cleaners now. I use a panel wipe and some blue rag.
Yeah.
I really do. That's my personal opinion. Because on the windows inside it's grease. Use panel wipe, and I just get blue towels, blue toilet paper, the big industrial stuff. Wipe it all down. Never have any issues whatsoever. But that's my personal opinion. And I think it was Dave Walker from Epic. Okay, he did a video on glass cleaning, and I'm pretty sure it was him that sort of adopts that strategy, and I've used it, and it does me fine. In my eyes, you're not thinking leaving anything behind, because if there is a carrier per se, it vents off. It's very volatile liquid. It flashes off, and what I see on the blue roll says to me it's taken off of that grease, and I don't want anything left behind. So that's my opinion on it. Okay,
cheap and cheerful, good.
Yeah. Exactly. Brilliant question. Steve, have you got any questions for Andreas? I know you had, there's quite a few questions that we didn't ask last time, actually. I've still got loads. That's for part 3.
I'm looking at them now as we speak. We've been keeping some notes. But no, I think the ones that I've got left and the ones I've asked tonight will actually fall well into part 3. They were grouped together quite well. And off of what we spoke today, that's opened up another set of questions that I've been writing through. So, but yeah, there's definitely more traction there, and I'm pretty sure there's people who want to know more. I certainly want to know more as well, personally. So I'm going to leave mine for part 3 because I'm conscious of 1 hour 40 minutes. I think for me that's a great to and from work podcast.
Yeah, it is. And the last question we could have is boxers or briefs. No, I'm joking.
I've got loads of those interview style questions that I didn't actually ask him.
Let me ask my last question I wrote down, because I think it would end the podcast in a nice way. Let's assume there is a multinational agency which overlooks the whole detailing market, and that actually has something to say. I mean, you could, for example, put sanctions into play if someone doesn't behave. Let's now assume you are appointed the president of that organization for 1 year. What would be the 3 most pressing priorities during that year for you? What would you change? What would you make better? What would you put into place?
We so need to give Andreas his own show, and you could use the Company platform. You are so doing a podcast, and we're going to get loads of people on. So George, go for it.
What are those 3 again?
I would say,
what would you change? What would you make better? What would you put into place? It can be all things. Just 3 of your priorities as the president of that organization.
I'd make it I can't even say it, sentenceable if you have false claims that you need to be held accountable for. The next one I would have is, and this was actually something that Jay at Bouncers said, you can have a tiny amount of something in.
I'm going to get a pen to write my answer down.
And you and you can say that it's got graphene in or something like that.
Yeah.
EZ sales banned.
So for me, I would go. I wrote down 3 answers quickly. One, that there was a training process for people to come in and work by. So there would be an accreditation for people to all stand in regard, which they could all pass and also be accredited, so on and so forth. Training would be number 1. In part of that training, when I put another subhead in, part of my job, health and safety, part of the training scheme. One would be also, I'd be camping down on any bullying or negativity within the industry. And then, as George said, one would be I would want to know the chemical makeup. If that says it's 25% carnauba or 25% ceramic, or if it's going to last 3 years, I want it to go through some sort of testing, real world testing, where these facts and figures are actually correct.
George,
that's my three.
I have one more to add. Ban any detailing in socks and sliders or Crocs.
Right. Mine has got a bit of crossover. First one, I'd have, and we talked about this in part one, I would have, and I don't know how they do it. The main thing contest, that gets debated in detailing is longevity. I would have my organization, I'm president of for a year, enforce some kind of universal standardized testing for longevity claims. Okay, so if any detailing product makes a claim regarding longevity, they must have approached my organization for a year to get that quantified and tested. Very, very, very similar to the medical world. If they make claims or anything, it all gets tested, and there's a controlling body. So control over longevity claims would put a lot of arguments to bed. And unfortunately, that's what sways people to buy stuff. So I think it's criminal how some claims get away and then don't get challenged. The other one is I would enforce that all detailing brands, big and small, release data sheets and stuff like that. Okay, because it's a legal requirement. And the fact is that's why there is such a disparity in the price, because it costs a lot of money to get that information, and it protects the user. And I echo what Steve says about bullying. I think that it's gone too far in some arenas. Okay, personal attacks on people and all that kind of stuff. Bullying's bullying, and I don't see why it should be ignored when it's in the industry we love and spend so much time on. So some kind of policing of negativity and all that kind of stuff. That last one is very, very difficult, but certainly the first two can easily be enforced. A standard for longevity claims, data sheets to get parity across the board, protecting the user and the brand, and then try and clean up the industry because there's too much toxicity in it. So they're my three. Andreas.
Great answers. You're all hired.
Thank you.
You're all three hired.
Thank you.
You can pick the years. You can pick the years, but I'll hire you. I agree with every single point you said. Those would be my priorities as well.
I think it has to happen. I mean, we're 142. This is the last discussion point. I think the industry needs it. I think with the amount of competition, the amount of stuff going on, it needs. And I don't know how it was. I mean, you'd almost need to have it some kind of top down, from government down, through some kind of the because you're not going to get everyone agreeing. The only way this is going to happen is if it's enforced by government and it comes down like any other industry, because you're not going to get the smaller brands with buying into it. So I think it might happen. It might not. I don't know. Has this been discussed years ago? Is this just a question that we ask ourselves at the moment? But someone needs to control it. So I think it's a good question. I mean, what's your opinion, Andres? I know we quickly talked about it last time, but do you think it will happen, or do you think it's a too big a ask, and we're living in some farcical, idealistic world that really doesn't have any reality?
With the consequences of the Corona crisis in mind, which is decentralization again, I don't think it will happen on a global scale, at least. No, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Right then, I think that's 143. It got juicy in there, didn't it? It got a bit juicy, when Andreas's questions started. So, unless Andy, Steve, have you got any more questions? Anything more to say?
Well, it was just to thank. As I say, I know you'll wrap up and finish up everybody, but it was just I want to take a personal time to say thank you to everybody that has messaged me, or the TCB group, or any of us part of this podcast. And thank you again, Andreas, for coming along. And I'm sure Andy will finish up as he just said. But the personal messages that I receive off the back of these, please keep them coming. Not for ego, because it helps us, think of ideas, going for the next one, and we share those between ourselves. And please feel free to drop any comments you've got to any of us that you'd want us to discuss for future guests coming on. We've got more guests coming on. We've got Andres, as you just heard, coming back again. And there's a lot more coming. But yeah, if you could steer or direct any questions towards any of us, that would be great. And thanks. Cheers.
Great.
Cheers, Steve. George, anything to say before we run the end credits?
Just to echo what Steve says, really. Any feedback that we get back helps us grow and adapt to what people want. And also, I think that we should have... How can I phrase this? I think we should... you know something's coming. Yeah. I think we should try and open something up of clothing that should be banned for detailing, because there are some things that go on that are absolutely criminal. So message us, what should not be allowed?
Like yellow t-shirts, you mean? Things like that?
Oh, man.
I'm only joking. I love it. Pro detailer, winner. Excuse me. No. Thanks, George. Andreas, have you got anything finally to say before I do a wrap up and do the normal thanks and all that kind of stuff?
Thank you so much for having me again. I mean, it was humbling to hear that you got a lot of and positive feedback from the last episode. So it was a real joy to be back on it again with you guys. I'm happy to do it again in the future, because we all said it probably won't happen that we have a government body or agency or anything like that in the industry in the next couple of years. And I actually think that podcasts like yours or Specky and Paws or others, they cannot do the same, but they are somewhat of an equivalent in terms of we talk about those topics. Maybe people hear and maybe people think about them, and then that maybe on the back of things change a few things we just talked about. Maybe. Let's hope that it does.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I totally endorse Paul and Specky's podcast. Really, really interesting. If you haven't gone and looked at them, go and have a listen. Really enjoyable, good, entertaining chats about detailing. So, once again, George, thank you very much for attending. Steve, as ever, thank you very much for your valued input. Andreas, this is podcast number 2. We will do some more. And like you said, the amount of questions out of all the past podcasts we've done, the one that we did with you got the most response in terms of additional questions to ask you, which is good. I think I will discuss it amongst the management team. What might be an idea next time for maybe part 3 is to fill this podcast studio full of people. There's so many people that have been asking questions, etc. Get them in, put 8 up on the screen. I can pull people in and out the podcast, and all that kind of stuff, and get a really dynamic flow. I don't think we'll be in a situation whereby has anyone got any questions and there's deadly silence. Okay, and feed people in and that, and engage the beginners, maybe some brand owners and all that kind of stuff. I think that'll be something fresh and different, and maybe even do it live. And we were talking about this afterwards, so there's no editing, and we really get real live responses from people. So thank you very much.
CEO of Turtlewax would be an interesting one.
Absolutely. He watches all our videos. Okay, George, quickly.
I'm just going to say my final word. Remember, the place to be is TCB.
Before I'm sick, run the credits.